Well, hey, good afternoon, good morning, or good evening, whenever you get to be watching this. This is the channel Agronomy Blitz, accelerated insights for your agronomic advantage. The June 30th edition, and if this is your first time joining us, my name is Tyler Brigdenholm. I'm a technical agronomist in south central Nebraska for the Channel Seed brand. Let's dive right into it. If we look at growing degree day departure, and this is a slide I've done every week for these videos, and really looking at if we started planting the 20th of April compared to if we started planting the 5th of May. And for my territory as a whole, if you look specifically at my hometown at Kearney, you're about 62 growing degree days ahead at the April 20th planting date. If you would have waited till May 5th, you're about 47 units ahead. So kind of an interesting contrast there. And then similarly, if you go down to Alma, April 20th, looking at 80 units ahead of the curve compared to the May 5th planting date, 72 units ahead of the curve. So not a huge amount of differences. You can, study this map as much or as little as you want. There's definitely some locations with bigger differences and jumps than others. So uh, the one I wanted to spend some time on is looking at total precipitation ranks by climate district for the Midwest. And I think I can sum this slide up in one old kind of wives' tale or saying is I'd rather be lucky than good. And that's what it has kind of felt like here in the central and western corn producing states. If you think about what this map showed us in April, early May, and even in some cases late May, uh, considerable amount of brown uh, climate districts when you look to the west. And there's still a couple that stand out as being, more on the arid side of the 133-year span than others, but a lot more green to this map. I would say the markets are reflective of this, unfortunately, for most of us. But some much needed precipitation events happened over the past, let's say, 7 to 10 days in a lot of the corn belt, specifically in the western corn belt. So, setting us up really, really nicely as we get ever so closer to flowering stage in corn. And then, of course, we're already flowering in soybeans in most fields. So, very, very welcomed. We never turn away rain in the West. I think that's the biggest thing on most of our bumper stickers. But uh, really interesting to see how this map has changed in a very what I would call short amount of time. It doesn't feel like it for most of us when we're um, down in the gutter of man every system seems to be going by us, but it seems like we just get one change in that pattern, and a lot of things start to go our way. So, some welcome relief. We still got a long growing season to go, but it feels like we've got a couple of wins here in the short term. So, when we talk about the corn growth cycle, where we're at, what that means for nutrient usage, and again, I've showed this slide before, but I'll continue to say it week in and week out. Don't get hung up on, hey, he's talking about growing 400 bushel corn. Now, what I want to look at is what are the nutrient requirements by growth stage, and when is this crop using the macronutrients and then the secondary macro sulfur? When are those big upticks when we need to be supplying that crop with the correct nutrition at the correct amount at the correct time? So, how do we get more efficient at doing that? A lot of cornfields, I'd say some of your later stuff probably V10, maybe even into the V6, depending on whether you replant it or not. A lot of my cornfields are V10, V16 even, getting close to that tassel time. So what does that mean? We've probably utilized darn near half of our nitrogen required to get us to our yield goal. But what's the big thing with what has happened in the last 7 to 10 days? We've had extremely big precipitation events that probably have changed our availability of nitrogen. So I guess my plan or my purpose for bringing this up this week is what do we need to do from here on out to make sure that crop not only has nutrition but has it available to it in a fairly easy manner to be able to uptake that and use it efficiently. How are we going to do that? Um, again, if we've applied more than that up to this date, how are we going to finish the season out? What does that look like? And do we need to think about changing our plans a little bit? So, definitely some food for thought. And again, you've used probably right around half your phosphorus uptake as well. Potassium, man, you're getting close to that 70 to 80% range by the time you hit the end of grand growth right before that corn plant decides to tassel. So a lot of potassium being uptaken by then, and again, critical nutrition piece when it comes to cell rigidity, cell wall, and standability in building the lignin in that plant to make sure it's sturdy and we have a really good factory to be able to carry us forward. So the big one I want people to think about is really sulfur. I think it's one that we probably missed the boat on in corn and soybeans both more than not. So again, as we get into the latter stages here, um, we're not even close to the finish line, but it feels like we're getting closer to the end of that race. How do you want to finish it? Is it supplying a little bit of extra sulfur? What is that biggest ROI? So be thinking about that as we go forward. Uh, Kind of covered most of this, but I really wanted to bring up the yield component of corn piece. We set ears per area way back at emergence. That game is over. Now we can influence kernel number and kernel weight. So how do we do that? Making sure we've got adequate nutrition in front of this corn crop, making sure it has adequate moisture, whether that's rain fed or irrigation, but making sure we're staying in front of this thing to really maximize our yield potential. Tar spot update. If I count correctly, we're up to 16 confirmed counties in Nebraska. Does that mean it's not in your backyard? Absolutely not. These yellow counties mean it has been confirmed. And I've got up here, really what we want to think about in terms of, hey, what conditions does it like? And what are some potential product combinations to make sure, hey, um, if I saw it at tassel, if I didn't see it at or before tassel, or if I detected it if I detected it prior to tassel. So we've kind of ran through every scenario of what we would do in those scenarios, how we would attack that with our Delaro brand of fungicide. Similarly going on in the soybean world, uh, flowering has started, and I think this is when soybeans begin to get ever more fickle to manage. And what I mean by that is, we're talking about a plant that naturally wants to abort flowers. So whatever application we're doing with that specifically, um, just be thinking about what the potential yield effect that could have by doing that application. So um, again, make sure that we're really thinking about how is that plant going to metabolize what I'm about to give it. Is it already going through some stuff between iron chlorosis or compaction, what have you? Your fields better than I do, but if I'm asking that to metabolize one more thing on top of it, is it going to lose some blooms and in essence lose me some pods over it uh, by doing this other application? So um, again, it's a fun time in the soybean field, but it's also one I feel like there's a lot of times we make an application in haste and maybe set that plant back more than we realize at the time. Similarly, again, I talk about this every week it seems, but I just want to bring up water usage, specifically when we think about the soybean world right now. So, flowering to early pod, you're using about an inch 40 a week, but the one I want to hit on is that pod development into pod fill. Um, it feels to me like we are always really, really cognizant up until flowering. The flowers hit on a soybean plant, we turn the water on and we get excited about it. But by about R4, we go, my goodness, this is getting taxing anymore. Um, I'm kind of getting tired of watching this thing go around in circles or turning pipe on. That's when we've got to hit it the hardest. that R4 to R6, and I would even argue from R7 into harvest, you're still using more water than I think a lot of people understand and realize. So that late watering is so critical to get a lot of these varieties to really give us the boost that we need to get over the high yield potential curve that I think a lot of these fields are capable of anymore. So with that, I appreciate you tuning in. Thank you so much. Have a happy 4th of July. Have fun. Remember why we're celebrating. Please come back with all your fingers if you can, and enjoy the family. But as always, thanks for tuning in for another week, and we will see you next week.